Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg Podcast. I'm Rose, and I'm a content creator going by the handle Cheap Lazy Vegan, and I also own a vegan cafe by the same name as the podcast, which is SaVeg Cafe.
And I'm Daniel, also a vegan, and one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends currently living in different countries, and we'll be giving our savage take on all things life, veganism, and the latest trending topics.
So basically, whatever comes to our minds, because we love to talk.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast.
All right. Welcome back, guys. It's been a minute. Welcome back to the SaVeg Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I mean, it's been a minute for us. I don't know. It hasn't really been a minute for everyone else.
That's true. That's true. Because we did have a...
It's been a minute since we've recorded.
That's very true. And it's been a while since we've had a chat, Rose.
I know. It's been so long. We're going to be catching up today, people.
Yeah, this is...
Daniel and I.
This is our catch-up moment. Because how long has it been? Like 3 weeks?
I think it's been about 3 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. No, almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I was away for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
and then... Yeah, and then I was sick for the last week.
Well, I mean, it seems to be a trend, Rose, that whenever you go travel, you get sick. So
every time.
I don't understand what happens. I mean, I think probably because traveling does take a toll on your body, but at this
100%.
Yeah, but it's just so well. It's not funny, but like every time that you've been traveling lately, it's
because I'm jet lagged.
Yeah,
it's because I'm jet lagged, and then I'm like doing stuff, so I'm like lack of sleep, and I'm like still going out and doing a bunch of stuff, so I'm like obviously gonna be exhausted, and I'm stressed.
True.
And Daniel, you'd be sick as well if you did the same thing. Okay.
Hey, I seem to vividly. Well, I guess to be fair, you traveled from Canada. So I was going to say I vividly remember.
Yeah,
us both
it's
going
different
to
when
Malta.
you travel from Europe to Europe.
Yeah, true.
That's very different, Daniel. You're not changing time zones, okay? Don't be trying to equating those two things that don't equate.
That is so true. All right. Well,
off to a great start. We're bickering already. Don't you love it?
Oh gosh, I missed this, Rose. I'm kind of glad we didn't have 3 weeks. We had 3 weeks without each other, you know?
You needed that time off.
Exactly.
Now you can miss me again.
Exactly. Well, I needed that time to like mentally recuperate and like rebuild my own confidence after being shattered multiple times by
From
you.
the damage.
Yeah. Well, goddamn. Well,
oh god.
I guess we've kind of alluded to it, but Rose, are you allowed to speak a little bit about where you've been the last kind of?
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks.
I am allowed to speak of it because I've been posting all about it on Instagram.
That's true. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
It's been all over social media.
Yes.
So
that's true. I haven't actually mentioned it on this podcast though. So I was actually in Israel for almost 2 weeks actually. And I was mainly I was pretty much staying in Tel Aviv, but I did a little bit of traveling within Israel. I even went to Palestine, like the West Banks. Oh my gosh, the stuff over there. Okay, let me just tell you.
Yeah, break it down because I've never even like been. Well, I've never been there, and I don't really know too much about the region either, if I'm honest.
Do you know anything about the conflict, Daniel?
A little bit, but I'm just not that well versed. So I think maybe you should break it down for us.
Oh God. Well, I mean, it's very complicated. So I don't really feel like I'll tell you what I think I know, but I also don't know. So the thing is, okay, first of all, the fact that I went there was already a source of controversy.
Really?
Like, I don't know if you've seen some of my my Instagram comments, but a lot of people had a problem with me going there. So basically, I was sent there by a company called Vibe Israel. And so it was a free trip, but I wasn't paid to make content, but it was still a free trip nonetheless. So I think people had a problem with the fact that it was like a free trip and they thought that I was like promoting the Israeli government or something. I don't really know. Okay. It's very controversial. I see why people are upset about it because there's so much like conflict over there in terms of the land. People are fighting over who owns this land or who deserves to live in this land. And it comes from, basically, this is what I know. This is what I think I know. Okay. I'm so sorry if I get this wrong. So please do your own research. But basically... Yeah.
I was going to say we should put a
from what I've learned.
I was going to say we should put a little disclaimer that we aren't fully versed in this exact topic, but this is from like Rose's experience being there and what she kind of remembers from being there, right?
Yes. Well, okay. another thing to note is that the trip was nothing political. It was not supposed to be about the government or anything. It was just a vegan food tour.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there to talk about politics or learn about politics at all. But because I stayed an extra, so I basically stayed with the tour for a week, and then I had an extra like almost week to do my own thing. So, so the week that I was there with the tour was just food based, not talking about politics, just meeting people, local people there and eating vegan food, all of that great stuff. But because of, where I was, there was a bit of controversy. So basically, from what I know, after World War II, when like Jewish people were kind of obviously, the whole horrific thing happened with Jewish people, it was... Someone put forth the idea that they needed to go back to like the homeland of the Jewish people.
Not a refuge, but like what do you call it? Like a sanctuary or a place of like, I don't know.
Like returning to the homeland, essentially. Yeah. Because I guess like 3,000 years ago, Jewish people did live in this land that was called probably something else at the time. Yeah. And basically they call this like Zionism, like returning to the homeland. So like taking all of these like Jewish people all over the world and like kind of sending them back into this homeland. So they created this land called Israel, and oh my God, I'm so bad at this, but like I don't know anything. But essentially this caused trouble because people already lived in this land called Palestine, I think. So when the Jewish people returned, a lot of people
were displaced.
Had to leave, and a lot of people got displaced, and there's just a lot of conflict between the Palestinians that claim that the land, they were just kind of like kicked out of their land, and also, and then Israelis saying that this is like, this was our land from the beginning. I don't know. Okay, it's very controversial.
And it's been going on
and
for
then
years,
the more controversial thing, it has been going on since basically that happened, I think, in 1948 or something along those lines. Yeah. And then, so I don't know, there was some wars going on there, and basically like Israel won some kind of war, and that granted them like certain amounts of land. And then, but then there was parts of this land called the West Bank and Gaza. Yeah. Again, don't know much about it, but that's supposed to be like Palestinian land, I think. Yeah. Once again, not sure. There's like three different, I learned there's so much information. Yeah. Okay. There's three different like areas in this like West Bank and Gaza, this like area. Yeah. And there's like area A, area B, and area C. And I can't remember exactly what's what, but basically one of them is under complete Palestinian authority. One of them is like partial. One of them is Israeli authority, blah, 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 blah. And the controversial thing now is a lot of Israeli people are moving into the area that is supposed to be like Palestinian land. Oh my God, I'm going to piss people off from talking about this because I'm probably not saying this properly. But people are like moving into this land and then like, creating like what's called Israeli settlements.
Okay.
And that's like, again, kicking more Palestinians out of the land. And the Israeli government apparently isn't giving the Palestinians like the equal amount of resources. I don't know. It's so complicated.
There's just so much going on.
But then
there.
Israeli people say that they're trying to make peace and they're trying to, come up with an agreement. And they're saying that Palestinians are the ones that don't want peace and they're not listening. So there's like a lot of like,
back and forth,
exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. It's so complicated. It's very sad because at the end of the day, I feel like if everyone just sat down for a cup of tea, I'm sure we could all just get along. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or a glass of wine. I don't care.
Exactly. I know. And it is frustrating because it's at the end of the day. And it is sad, like you said, because these are like everyday people that are just trying to live their lives. You know what I mean? Like in that region. Yeah. And like, imagine like I think we're really blessed coming from Canada and stuff. Well, obviously we got born in different countries, but moved to Canada, whatever else. But like, we're kind of isolated from some of this stuff. But imagine if we were born and grew up in these kind of areas such as Israel, such as some of the parts of the Middle East and Africa and other places where there's a lot of political unrest and a lot of, violence, a lot of, all of this stuff. And it's kind of like, I guess you would have a different perspective of life in general, like it's pretty crazy and it's sad, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we're all just people. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I know.
Yeah.
It's all like, it's so much politics and government, and so many people that just live there. They just want to, like, I don't know, live and be free and have a piece of land to themselves and, have a good life.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, anyway, I got a lot of hate for going to Israel because a lot of people think that Israeli government is, doing a lot of harm to the Palestinians. And again, I don't know the full details, but at the end of the day, like, what I want to say is I didn't go as part of the Israeli government. I was not paid by the Israeli government. Yeah. The company that I went with does not get funded by the Israeli government. So it was not a government funded tour. It was not political at all. And I think that that's the one thing I want to, like, say, it wasn't about politics.
Yeah. And maybe I might get some flack for this as well by saying this statement, but I also think, okay, like, let's say there's something going on with it. I'm not going to use Israel as an example, but let's say there's a country A and there's like something going on with the government's a bit corrupt or whatever else, or there's like conflict or whatever else. You have to remember, like, for example, if I went to visit that country, right, it's not necessarily that I'm going to, like, promote and say, this country's XYZ. But if you think about it, if you go there and you're, like, spending your money and you're creating economies for the people that actually live there, do you know what I mean as well? So I feel like in some ways, I mean, tourism is another topic that we need to get into on another podcast, because there's actually so many different, like, there was actually somebody commented on one of our YouTube videos, which we can talk about, like, in another podcast, but there's so many elements of tourism that, good and bad. But I think...
Oh, I saw that comment.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really...
We could talk about that today if you want.
Yeah, but I haven't done enough research into it about the whole, like, because some of it was about Airbnb.
Damn it, Daniel.
I know. Some of it was about Airbnb and stuff. And I feel like before I comment, because I have pros and cons for Airbnb as well, but I want to do a bit more research. What was I going to say? Oh,
and how it's ruining local economies and local people can't rent.
Yeah. There's like that whole, but yeah, I was just saying, like, even if there's a country that's having political unrest and you go there, like, to, experience the culture, and think about the people, not the, like, people that are, like, the government officials and everything else. Think about the everyday people that are trying to make a living. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
I know.
I don't know. I see two sides of the coin, but at the end of the day, like you said, you weren't funded by the government to go there to promote XYZ. You were there specifically by a company that's not affiliated with the government and for, like, more of a food kind of tour. Do you know? So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts personally.
I think, like, yeah, no, I agree. I do get why people... Here's the thing. I did not know about, like, I knew there was conflict. I knew there was, like, some, major situations going on, and I also knew that I would get some, like, backlash, because I've seen other vegan YouTubers and Instagrammers go on this tour and they also got backlash, so I knew I would get some, but I didn't know that I was going to get it to the extent that I did. A lot of the comments were actually quite nice. People were still understanding and not rude, and they were just kind of, like, trying to, like, tell me what their opinion was, which is totally fine and valid. But I think one of the things, to play devil's advocate, I learned that they have this thing, there's this movement, it's called BDS, which is, like, it's called what does it stand for? Borders, Divestment, and Sanctions, or something like that. Okay. Basically, what this movement is trying to do is, like, basically boycott Israel so that it pressures the Israeli government to, like, change their ways of going about this.
Okay.
This whole conflict. Yeah. Again, I don't know enough about this, and I haven't done enough research. I don't know how I feel about boycotting an entire country because of the actions of the government. Once again, I don't, like you said, like, there are independent people that live in these countries that don't agree with the government, first of all, and they are just trying to live their lives. And that was my experience when I went there. People were not talking about politics and the government, and, like, obviously they are aware of what's happening, and obviously they might have different opinions to us, but at the end of the day, they're just, making food, providing for their family, and just living their lives.
Well, like, some perfect examples of that too is, like, there's been many times where in Canada, like, I haven't agreed with government policy or certain parties getting elected, or even, especially a big one for me was living in the UK with the whole Brexit thing, just because, technically a small majority, like, it was like 2%, like 52 versus 48 or something like this. So a small majority voted for Brexit. There was a vast, a huge amount of the country that wasn't in agreement, that was, just, again, trying to live their lives. And they were like, whatever, the government's going to go through with this, but we have to still live in this country, so we have to keep you know, I know that's a smaller example of like some things, but it's just,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you like there's, you know, there's so many people that live in a country that you're right are independent and trying to just live their lives, have kids, whatever, families and all this kind of stuff. And they might not agree at all with the government policy, but they happen to live in that country. And that's where they're kind of, you know, and I think we forget sometimes, like, I mean, I only notice it when I hear people from other countries about, for example, you say, oh, well, why don't they just move to another country? But actually, for some countries, it's really hard for them to get visas and working places. So they're kind of like stuck in some ways in the country that they're born in some instances.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
yeah, it's really, Israel is very interesting because it's such a unique country, and there's two sides to this story. I've been watching a lot of like random little documentaries on YouTube and stuff and reading up on it. It's so fascinating. And I also did a little tour to the West Bank on like a more political tour.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting too, because that showed kind of the other side of and actually explain what's happening with some of these people. Once again, like both sides are obviously biased in their own way, and it's hard to like, you know, so that's why it's hard for me to like form an opinion, especially based on the fact that I haven't experienced these things. So it's just sad. Like, why can't we all just get along? You know,
it's hard. And again, like I said, I think we are very fortunate to come from Canada. Like we are pretty, and from Calgary, especially, like a very kind of, you know, nice, sheltered little city, you know, that's, you know, all of these things. So yeah, it's hard.
I know
it's hard for us sometimes, I think, to relate, but we should try to as best we can. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And learning more, you know, just talking to different people, learning more, learning from different perspectives. And like for me, honestly, visiting Israel and Palestine, all that stuff, it taught me so much more than I would have ever known if I didn't.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, to me, that is like, that's valuable. And
That's why honestly, it's funny because I had a conversation with someone about this like today, I think, or yesterday. And it literally, I was just talking about how important it is, I think, to travel, like personally, because up until I really started traveling, like I kind of had my views and ideologies about the world and everything else. But once I really started like traveling the world and going to places that, you know, are a little bit, you know, have a political unrest, have like stories and stuff, you learn so much more. And actually you become less ignorant to those issues because actually you don't watch it on the TV. You've been there, you've gone and had the tour, you've done the, you know, you've experienced being there. So I don't know. That's why I'm such a huge advocate on traveling and, you know, seeing what's out there.
Exactly. And like what you see in the news as well is so different from, you know, what you actually experience when you meet people that actually live in these places. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, without actually traveling, without going to places, they form a lot of opinions based on what they see in the news. And I think that's one thing that, you know, a lot of people did about Israel. Again, not taking any political sides or anything like that, but you know, it is a different experience when you actually go somewhere and see for yourself what's happening.
Yeah. And you have to remember too, like the news is, as unbiased as it tries to be, it still does have some biases. I think it's like newspapers and stuff like that. Like really, there's definitely some biases around that. So you have to kind of try to form your own opinions as well, which is why when you travel somewhere and really, you know, talk to the people and see what it's like, it's a different experience, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Anyways, enough about me. How was your 2 weeks?
Oh gosh.
What have you been doing?
Oh gosh, what haven't I been doing? My goodness, it's been a little bit crazy over here. Oh
shit. Of course, it's always crazy with Daniel.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me just think. Let's see, when's the last time that we spoke? So basically in Spain right now, they have it's over now, but the last 2 weeks of February is Carnival's week. So they have like all of these like big parties and stuff. So there's a really famous one in this region. It's in a city called Aguilas, which is right on the beach. So it was so funny. Me and my friend, we ended up somehow, my friend has this Spanish class and met a girl in her Spanish class that's part of Erasmus. And I guess there was an Erasmus bus, which is like the European exchange program, you know, like for like young kids, not young kids, but like 21, 22, whatever.
For university kids.
Yeah. So we ended up taking the bus with the Erasmus students.
Oh my God. Are you 12?
so embarrassing. Well, it wasn't embarrassing, to be honest. It was what it was, you know?
That is hilarious. Did you make friends with the Erasmus kids?
Well, there was a few people that we made friends with. And then when we got to that, we kind of went with a group, like my friend, her friend that was an Erasmus, part of Erasmus or whatever. So we kind of became friends with her and a few of her friends. But then we kind of all went off on our separate ways when we got to Carnival because there was just so much going on. There was like a parade and like food and like just...
Oh my God, that sounds so fun.
It was super fun. Like it was really cool. I mean, the cool thing is there's always like so much going on here. Like not next week, I think it's the week after, there's like another like holiday or something special going on where there'll be a parade and like I'm not sure if I told you I also did a thing called, I talked about it in a previous podcast that I was gonna go, but I went with a bunch of the school teachers to this town called Jumilla, which is like pretty far north of where I am right now, but it is famous for wine. So they have this huge thing called Ruta de Vino where you can go and like sample like different types of wine from the region. It was so good. It was super fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then me and my friend ended up obviously getting super, there was a big group of us that went. We got super drunk, obviously, from drinking the wine. And then we came back to Murcia and ended up going out for like a night out. And I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Seriously, I'm living like a child right now. I need to like grow up.
And when have you not lived like a child, Daniel?
I know. I feel like when I come back to Calgary, I'm going to settle down, you know?
But Daniel, can we talk about the fact that you might not want to come back to Calgary? Okay. Can we talk about that for a second?
Oh God. Okay. Well, wait, though, Rose.
This is a call out. I
know. There has been some developments in this story. Okay. Hang on. I need to have a sip of my coffee.
Oh God. Do I need a sip of wine?
No. Okay. So, originally, I've been having a mini freak out and I've been texting Rose about this like all the time. As I do. I always have these freakouts.
This is very normal, by the way.
Yeah. I always will like, I'm one of these people that, you know, even though I've done all these like cool stuff like backpacking and living in London and living here now, before I do it, I like have a nervous breakdown and I like go back and forth and like send Rose like 400 text messages. She probably is asleep and wakes up in the morning, looks at her phone and is like, oh God, Daniel, another one of Daniel's breakdowns. But basically the company that I'm with is called Conversa Spain and they do like teaching assistance in Spain. And basically they emailed us last week it was last week, where they basically told us we have to make a decision by March 5th and we have to pay this fee of like 300 euros or something like this to renew our contracts for next year. And I was like, oh God, like, do I want to renew my contract? Don't I want to? Do I want to go back to Calgary? Like, I haven't really seen anything in Calgary that's like really been. I mean, I'm coming back in the summer anyway, but I haven't seen like job wise anything that's really like struck my interest. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And then I was like feeling so much pressure. So finally, I did apply for a renewal here in Spain. However, I did it through the government direct, so I didn't have to pay anything. And then, interestingly, like, as this always seems to happen, I was like on LinkedIn and there's a couple jobs actually that I've seen in Calgary that were like,
ooh,
yeah, like good ones that were like very similar. Cause I liked my job that I had in London. Like that's not really the reason why I left. I just didn't want to be in London anymore. There was parts of the job I
didn't know you actually liked your job.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't in love with it, but I didn't like hate it either.
Yeah.
But there was like some similar kind of job postings in Calgary recently, like within the last week that have just come up. And I was like, of course, not fuck my life, but like, of course.
Why is it fuck your life?
I know it's good. It's good. So I'm going to apply for a few of those this weekend, actually, see what happens. And I'm also going to apply for the Spanish renewal and leave it up to fate. And if I don't get a job in Calgary, then I come back to Spain. Win-win.
No, that wasn't the plan, Daniel.
What was the plan,
That was not
Rose?
the plan.
Please tell me the plan.
Okay, the plan was, so Daniel has to come back to Calgary anyway. So for the summer and until what, October?
Yeah, October.
Right, technically?
Yeah.
So this program that he's renewing potentially, that starts in October.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be back in Calgary for like a few months anyways. Yeah. So I told him that he should definitely apply for the program. Am I allowed to say this? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Are you allowed to back out? Okay, whatever.
It's fine. They're not going to listen to it, okay? They're not going to listen to this podcast.
Okay. So basically, I told him that he should, apply for the program and then still come back to Calgary, look for jobs. And if he can't find a really good job that he wants that he wants to stay for, then he can go to Spain and do another year. But if he finds a great job during the time that he's here, then he could just stay here.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
But I mean,
it wasn't just based on these 2 jobs that you found on LinkedIn.
No, oh my God, Rose, I know. Okay. But I just mean like, I'm also going to apply for those while I'm here and then also look for jobs when I'm back in Calgary. But
what are you going to,
I was talking to one of my friends though, like that lives in Calgary, and she was saying like, I mean, I hope I would find something, but the market hasn't like, it's not like it's like drastically picked up. Like it's still harder to find a job there at the moment.
Dude, it hasn't picked up at all. It's a piece of shit.
Oh God. See, this scares me because
actually, I don't know. I live in a little bubble.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what's going on. I mean, to be fair, all my friends have jobs. It's not like I have like a bunch of friends laying around doing nothing.
Unemployed. Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, I think, and plus with my experience, I think I would get something, but it's just like, I don't know. If only the podcast was a full-time thing, God damn it.
Guys, by the way, if you want to donate to Daniel's funds.
Yeah. Tell everyone about this podcast,
Yeah, tell everyone, guys. We are here for you on your commute.
Yes. Tell your friends, your family, everyone. Pass the word.
Yes, we try to make this a full-time gig for Daniel, okay?
So I don't have to go back to a regular job.
We're about 2,000 patrons away from this.
This is so true. Oh gosh.
Anyway, no, guys, we're joking. Yeah. This is like fun for us anyway. Exactly. So even if it doesn't turn into anything, we are totally having a great time. Exactly. So it's thank you for all of you.
Exactly. Thanks for all the support so far. I mean, and like you said, Rose, it's just like a fun little project, and we have been having fun with it. So it's kind of like, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's like, we get to talk, we get to catch up, and, I get to laugh at Daniel all I want. So
you get to continually make fun of me and make my life a living.
People are actually going to think I abuse you.
It's okay. Well, it's not far from the truth. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this with Rose if that was the case. I'm trying to.
I don't know. Anyways,
I'm trying to think what else is like going on. I mean, other than me having this like freak out about what to do, like, it's just, I miss Calgary. And obviously like my friends and family that are there, but then a big part of me, I'm torn because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm used to living like internationally now, like in London and Spain and all these places. And I'm going back to Calgary, which, isn't the most exciting of cities, So I'm kind of nervous. I'm going to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's weigh out these pros and cons, Daniel.
Okay.
So first of all, let's ask our listeners and viewers to leave some comments below. What do you think Daniel should do? So here, but first let's lay out the pros and cons.
Okay.
So one hand, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, you want to live in Spain and, have exciting fiestas.
Yeah.
And go to wine fests and go traveling easily. You're in Europe. So you're doing that for another year.
Yeah.
I mean, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah, true.
And you would have a great time, good weather.
Yeah.
Meeting new people, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you come back home, and even though it's not as exciting, but I'm here, so
True.
plus like 1,000 points. Secondly, you could also potentially find maybe a job that there's a little bit more stability, a little bit more financial, gain. I don't know how much you're making there, but I know you're working part-time and stuff.
Yeah. It's not a lot.
And you can, and you can start building, your life and, settle down.
Oh, God dang, Rose. Yeah, you're right. No, this is literally the pros and cons that I'm struggling with. Like the pro here is like, amazing weather. The weather here is amazing. Like it hasn't got below like 20 degrees here the whole winter. Like it's been like today's like 25. Yesterday, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's a huge pro. And the pro is like, I'm in Europe, so it's easy to travel, everything else. I mean, I guess the big negative is obviously this isn't sustainable basically, because like financially you don't get paid a lot to do this. Like I'm working part-time, which you get part-time salary. I mean, it's enough to make my rent and everything else, but like I'm not really saving and that kind of stuff. So it's, I don't know. That's a big one where it's like, whereas if I came back to Calgary and got like a good job, like I'd have more financial stability. And I would you know, and a big pro would be like being able to like not reconnect, but like be with all of my like really close friends that I've known for like years and years and years. And especially you, Roses.
That's why I thought that's why you wanted to leave London, you know, come back. You know, you wanted to be with your close. Hold on.
Are you okay there, Rose?
You wanted to be with your close friends and your family and all that shit.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
No, this is still.
And you want to go back to Spain now?
It's still there, Rose. Okay, you know I'm like the most indecisive person ever, and then I'll finally make a decision.
Yes.
So I mean, either way, I'm coming back to Calgary in this summer. So it's just, you know, I kind of like, a big part of me is like, I think that I'm just going to stay in Calgary because I do kind of want to like, I'm getting to that age now where I do want to settle down and start like, you know, making a like little life for myself and like getting maybe like not getting my own place, but like having my own place that's like not a flat share necessarily and like having my own like things.
That's the thing. It's funny because a few years ago, I feel like you and I were like, you had this idea that you wanted to come back and settle down and buy a house. You were like obsessed with buying a house.
Yeah,
You're like, I want to buy a house and settle down and have babies and all this stuff. And you were very like into that idea. And then it's funny to see you now still in Europe and, you know, deciding whether or not you want to settle down or buy a place or get a place of your own.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's honestly, don't overthink it because both decisions sound perfectly fine to me. It just depends on what you value at that moment.
Exactly.
And exactly. So I don't think that, you know, of course, there's also a value in settling down and maybe, you know, having a place and having that kind of comfort of home. But there's also a value in you know, living somewhere exciting for another year. And, you know, when are you going to get to do that again? You know,
it's so true. And then I also think another pro/con that we didn't discuss is dating life in Calgary. God damn.
Well, can we talk about your dating life right now? What's going on, Daniel?
Oh God, I just have nothing. Well, actually, to be fair, I have nothing really going on.
Have you gone on any dates? I thought you were going to go on some dates.
I know I haven't been on a date for a while. I did go on a date like a little while ago, like maybe a couple weeks. No, it was longer than a couple weeks ago. And then I did really like one of my gym instructors, but I found out that he has a girlfriend, so that's a no-go. Story of my life.
God. Well, remember that episode that we did about how you apparently like to about all the guys with girlfriends that you know,
that the summer of bisexuality. That's what I called it.
Yes. Was that our Patreon episode or was it public?
No, it wasn't a public episode. So because some of those stories I don't want to delve into on the public domain.
Yes, Patreon is for the you know, juicy stuff.
So yeah, but no, that was the summer of bisexuality, which was a crazy summer, you know? It was one that I don't wish to revisit anytime soon. So as soon as I found out, obviously this guy has a girlfriend, I was like, okay, cool, like good for him, you know? But it kind of made me sad because I was like,
next.
But he's so sweet and such a lovely guy. But you're right, you know, I'm like, okay, next. Well, who's next? But like,
is he really sweet and such a lovely guy, or does he just have nice abs and is he just very hot?
He has both, Rose. Because in the class, he'll like come up to you.
Okay, Daniel.
He'll come up to you and be like, oh, like, how are you? And he's always like saying hi to me. And like, I don't know. He's just a really nice guy. He seems like a really nice guy. And we have chats in the locker room sometimes.
Oh my God. You probably blush so hard.
You know I do.
Oh my God. Daniel is such a little, you're like a little girl. Oh my God. Can we tell the story about your spirit animal?
Oh God. Why do we have to, is this going to be titled the Embarrassing Daniel podcast episode? Because like, seriously, Rose, okay. Summer of bisexuality. And now can we talk about your spirit animals? Embarrassing stories of my life.
The story is so great.
It is pretty funny.
It's just so great. You have to tell it.
Okay. I will tell this story of how I got my spirit animal. So basically, before I left for the UK, me and a couple of friends decided to go on a road trip across Canada. We bought this old kind of like van, that like this 6-seater van, and there was 6 of us, and like loaded it up with camping gear and just took off across the country. So at one of the campsites, we're all sitting around the campfire, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, it'd be really cool. Like we should come up with like each other's spirit animals, or like what." Because you know how each person, sometimes you can like meet somebody and you're like, oh, they kind of remind me of an animal, or they kind of like, do you know what I mean? Like their behaviors or whatever else. So they went around the campfire and everyone was like, oh, you're definitely this. You're definitely that. I can't remember what the animals are now, but they were like, you're definitely a bear and you're a fox and you're, you know, like certain things. And then it got to me, and everyone looked at me and they were like, oh God, actually, Daniel, I'm not sure what your spirit animal is. I can't pinpoint it right now. We're going to continue this road trip and we'll keep it in the back of our minds. And if something happens that triggers a spirit animal, then we will know exactly what it is. And we'll discuss it then. I was like, okay, cool. So we continued the road trip, and this was probably like a week and a half later. And we got to this town. It was up north. It was in Whitehorse. It was in Yukon. It was called Whitehorse, the city. And they had a Starbucks there. And I was super excited because I hadn't had Starbucks for a while. And I'm obsessed with Starbucks in some ways. Or I was at the time. Not so much now. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get my Starbucks. So I had my Starbucks. I had my Lululemon sweatpants, which are like, if those of you that don't know, they're like yoga pants that are really, really popular, or they were popular. I think they're still popular, right?
They are still popular, yeah.
So I had my Lululemon sweatpants. I had my Starbucks coffee in one hand. And we went back to the campsite and we were trying to set up the tent. And everyone was doing stuff like collecting firewood, doing whatever else. And I was just stood there drinking my coffee. And so I remember my friend turned around and she was like, Daniel, are you going to help us? Like, what's going on? Like, because I was just stood there with my coffee. I said, oh, don't worry. Like, I'll help you. But like, I just don't want to, I don't want to spill. I can't remember exactly what I said. I was like, oh, I want to finish my coffee first. And then she looked at me with my Lululemon sweatpants and my Starbucks coffee. And at that moment she was like, I know what your spirit animal is. And I was like, what's my spirit animal? She's like, you're a 16-year-old girl. And then literally the rest of the trip, anytime I did something remotely like, ditzy or like kind of like, something like
basic.
Yeah, basically anything basic. They would be like, yep, this is Daniel. You're just, re-emphasizing your spirit. Your spirit animal's coming out to play today. Hey.
Oh my God. It's so funny because when you told me that, immediately I was like, yes.
Yeah. So apparently my spirit animal is a 16-year-old girl. So I'm a 16-year-old girl trapped in a 31-year-old man's body.
And I'm sorry, but did you leave out the detail that it was a pumpkin spice latte that you were drinking? Or was it not a pumpkin spice latte? Exactly.
Which makes it even worse.
Oh my God. The fact that you're like, I'm obsessed with Starbucks. Oh, love it so much.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I used to be.
But
I'm not so much anymore.
Yes, you became less basic thanks to Europe.
This is true, actually. Europe's changed me because before I moved to, especially before I moved to London, I was always like, oh, Starbucks. I would get it all the time when I was working downtown. And then...
Such a basic bitch.
Yeah, I was. I still kind of am. I'm not going to lie. Like, I still am very basic. And then when I moved to London, it's like, I don't know, and being in Europe and like, obviously like European coffee and like, I don't know, having espressos, and especially in places like Spain and Italy, there's no reason to go to Starbucks. And even when I was in London, there were so many other coffee shops that had better coffee, that was cheaper, that was like, you know what I mean? I don't think I ever I think maybe I've gone to Starbucks a few times in the 5 years I was in London, like barely ever. Yeah. Because there's just no need to.
Do they even have Starbucks in Spain?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They
have really?
There's one. There is one because I see it on my walk to one of the schools. I've only seen one. So the one thing I do like about it here is like and maybe this is just Murcia where I am, there's less chains. Like they still have a few chains. Like there's still Burger King and KFC and McDonald's here, but there's barely any. Like there's like a couple, but they're not like every street corner. Like, how in Calgary, it's like you go around, there's like so many.
Yeah, it's basically all chains.
Yeah. I just don't like, I get chains, but then I don't get them as well because like I would rather go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
I don't know. You used to be a Starbucks fiend, so I don't know. You tell your old self that.
This is very true. My old self, okay, Rose? I'm a reformed addict, Starbucks addict.
I'm such like an I'm not anti-Starbucks, don't get me wrong. I do go to Starbucks once in a while, but usually like I avoid it like the plague if I can. Like, how do I say? If there's another coffee shop that's like a just an independent coffee shop, I would rather go there than go to a Starbucks. Yeah. I mean, I still go to Starbucks. I will still go to Starbucks when I'm in Calgary or wherever else. I will still go, but again, it's not going to be my first choice. Yes. And it's like, especially when you're traveling, like I hate when I'm traveling and then people are like, let's go to like Starbucks. And I'm like, there's like 50 other coffee shops that we could potentially try.
Or let's go to McDonald's or something like this. It's like,
oh my God.
It's like, no,
honestly,
we're in this country. Like, we're going to try the food that's here, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I do remember distinctly when I was backpacking, it was like halfway through my trip, me and my friend, we got to this one city that did have a McDonald's. And I just remember us being like, 'cause we had been eating the local food this whole time. And you know, sometimes you just want a home comfort. And I don't know why, but we were just like, we really would just want to go to this McDonald's. And I remember I have a picture of my friend sitting there with like a happy, not a happy meal, like a whatever. And she was just like smiling. And I was like, it was just like, we didn't do it again, I don't think, for the rest of the trip. It was just that one time. But like, we just wanted a kind of like familiarity of home, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally. That happens for sure. And like, I understand that as well.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm not being like a complete snob of being like, you can never eat at any chain ever unless you're a basic bitch. But I think, like when I travel, I like to try out like, you know, the local stuff for the most part.
I think
but sometimes I do miss like, you know, whatever comfort food.
Exactly. I do think, and that's part of the fun of traveling is trying out the food. Like, cause some of the food in some countries is like amazing. Like, well, actually in most countries they have some kind of dishes or something that you would never have tried before. So I think that's always fun.
Exactly.
Speaking of,
but are you traveling anytime soon? Because, you know, shit's hitting the fan over here.
I was just about to speak about this. So get this. So me and one of my friends that lives here in Murthia, she's never been to London. So I was like, oh, we should book a trip to London, blah, 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 blah. So we booked flights for the end of this month. We're going there for like 4 days. And the thing is there's like, obviously everyone knows kind of now about this coronavirus outbreak and whatever else. And Spain, I guess some of the teachers had talked to my friend about this, and like a lot of the teachers that were going to go to London on like a field trip or something, or to Paris, I can't remember, that's been canceled. Like, people are freaking out, and they were saying like, we should have second thoughts about going to London because there's been a massive outbreak in the UK, but then apparently recently there's been an outbreak in Spain as well. So it's like everywhere.
I know. Well, the thing is, I feel like it's impossible to contain this. Like, it's gonna spread.
Exactly. This is the thing that's so,
I don't know.
This is the thing that's so difficult, especially now, because of how like global and international like we are as a people or whatever. What am I trying to say? It's like people travel all the time, right? So it's like trying to control something is going to be, especially the thing with the coronavirus. I think that's the most scary, is that it's so easily transmitted. I think that's what I remember reading is like, it's like, because it's easily transmitted from one person to the other, basically. And some of the other viruses weren't as easy to transmit.
But then they say it's from like it's from your like fluids, right? So like if you cough and like or you touch your face or something. Yeah. I'm like, is that easy? Like, if I'm standing next to you. Yeah. And I'm not like kissing you or touching you, like, can you still get that? Like, if I have corona?
But this is the thing, though. We have to remember when you cough and stuff. For example, when you cough, you release microparticles into the air, right? So as soon as you do that, you're releasing these microparticles. And even though you might not see them, even if you're in that vicinity of like maybe a room with somebody, you're going to breathe in those microparticles. And if they contain, you know, parts of the virus, then you going to get the virus.
Oh, God damn. I mean, okay, here's another thing. So, oh no, I've lost my train of thought.
Okay, well, I have something I can add in until you you get it back on your train.
Okay, you go.
One thing I've thought was really kind of like sad that's happened about this virus. Well, the virus is sad to begin with, because obviously people are dying. It's scary, you know, all this stuff's happening. And the thing is with this virus, as with most viruses, generally, like, you know, at this age that I am, I mean, obviously I don't want to get it, but I'm not as fearful as, let's say, you know, young people or older people, because that's generally who is going to be impacted and potentially die from this, or people with really weak immune systems. Because generally, if someone like me or you, knock on wood, were to get it, we might get a bit sick, maybe even get pneumonia, which would suck, but we would come back on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, we would be fine.
Most likely.
Yeah.
So,
but another thing that's really sad about this virus is that it sparked, I don't know if you saw recently, but it's been sparking some things of racism in some countries, because it's been kind of, for whatever reason, well, because it came out of China, basically, this virus, apparently. They're like branding it that like Asian people have this virus. And like, I remember, was it you that sent me the picture of that guy that got beat up?
Yeah, I posted it on Insta story. That's probably where you saw it.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah, this guy in London got just randomly beat up because some like probably a bunch of teenage hooligans were like, saying something about how he has coronavirus. And like a lot of Asians, that's the thing. It's like a lot of these micro like racist things are happening where people are just kind of like seeing an Asian and being like avoiding them or saying corona in front of them. Yeah. But this guy, like, I guess somebody said that to him, and then maybe he like, I can't remember what exactly, but he probably maybe stared at them back or said something back. And then they started like beating him up.
That's crazy.
And basically being like, go back to your country. And it's like, oh, come on.
I know.
Really?
Like, what the hell? The thing is, it's crazy. It's like, it's a virus. It's not a person. It's not like a certain, like, it's so stupid. Like, we're all, people just drive me crazy. They really do. Cause like,
oh my God, seriously.
Like, go back to your country. It's like, excuse me. I'm as much like I have this passport. I have this, I'm a citizen here. What are you talking about? This is my country. Like,
yeah.
Go back.
And even if it wasn't, like, there are so many Asian people in this world. I think there's like, I Googled this the other day. I think there's like 1.7 billion East Asian people. Yeah. So, imagine if we all had the fucking virus. Like, really? 1.7 billion people in this world that are East Asian, and you are saying that we all have the fucking virus. Like, please stop.
It's so stupid. And
when I also experienced a little bit of that when I was so I did that tour to the West Bank and stuff. And one of the tours we got off at like in Palestine somewhere. And I remember, again, I didn't take any offense to this because I think a lot of it is just misinformation and a little bit of ignorance and stuff. But I remember like these little kids like stared, like pointed to our tour group and was like, Corona. And and even these like, not just kids, that was the kids. So kids, I can kind of be like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Although like, we should still educate kids that, it's not, it's not because we're Asian, but anyway. And there was another like car of like adults, like dudes, like men that just like drove by and like said the same thing. They were like Corona or something. And at first I looked at my tour guide, I was like, oh, and he was like, oh, no. They're just saying that because you're tourists, not because you're Asian. I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's because I'm Asian.
Yeah. You're like, I have
It was me and another girl that was Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So it's like, excuse me. But anyway, that was just one little experience. But other than that, like, most people were fine. Obviously, like most people weren't like it's just like a few people that are so ignorant.
Well, it's a few people that ruin it for the rest, though. That's the unfortunate thing, is like, you have these, extremists or people that are, uneducated. And it's just like, I'm so sorry. Like, how stupid are you to think that, just because of a race of person, they have a disease? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know. It's like, I think it's so dumb. I know. It's like human stupidity at its finest. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what the?
Like, I realize it came from China. I get that. But it's like, obviously, there are controls in place. Okay. So like if somebody flew from freaking Wuhan, China to somewhere, they're going to be quarantined. Yeah. Like, and you should be quarantining yourself. Like if you are flying from that area. Yeah. So it's not just it's just, it's stupid.
Oh my
God.
Plus
I haven't been to Asia since like 2011.
Yeah. Oh my God. Actually, a funny story about this whole situation. So one of the other, I'm like going to consider an auxiliary. So one of the other people on the program that teaches at my school, she got really, really sick one week and had to go to the hospital because she was like having some problems and stuff. And they put her, like, I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but basically some people went to visit her, some of the other people that are on this program with me, and they get to her room and literally all the rooms in the hospital were like normal rooms, but obviously like all of us people that are on this program were all international. So like they probably like, again, we're international people. So maybe we're higher at risk or something to them. And you get up to her room, and on her room, there's like a big thing on the door with like an X or something. And then there was like a little tray of like things to put on, like masks and gloves and all this stuff. So everyone had to put like masks and gloves on just to enter her room. And she didn't have
just her room.
Just her room. No one else's room. Just her room.
Is she Asian?
No, she wasn't. She's from the US, but like. Yeah, I just thought that was like, it was just crazy. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
But what did she have? Was it highly contagious?
No, I mean, they didn't even know 100% what she had. So maybe that was a precaution, I guess. But like afterwards, they sent her home after like 2 days or something, and she was fine. Like I think she just had like bronchitis or something to, but I guess they freaked out, obviously, with all this stuff going on. And then I remember all the teachers as well at the school were like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't have coronavirus.
Honestly, people are freaking out. And even when I got sick, because I got sick on the trip. Yeah. And like my first symptom was just like a stuffy nose. Yeah. And I remember like, because, I was like super jet lagged. Like I barely slept in the night, and then I had to go and like do stuff in the day, and I was so exhausted. So that's how I, got sick. Yeah. But then I remember like the day after I like started feeling sick, my dad called me and he was like, why do you sound so stuffy? And I was like, oh, I got a cold. He's like, oh my God, you can't get a cold. Have you not heard about this corona? Blah, 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 blah. And he like freaked out. And apparently, actually, like just a few days before, a bunch of like Korean tourists were in Israel, and then they got flown back. When they flew back to Korea, a bunch of them ended up having coronavirus. So then people started freaking out, and then Israel decided to like ban any travelers from Korea. So there's a little bit of conflict, I think.
Oh God.
Because like I think they turned back a flight, so there was another flight of Korean tourists coming into Israel, and then they basically were like, "No, you can't come in."
That's crazy. The crazy thing is, again,
oh God,
I get that these countries are trying to take these precautions, but at the end of the day, that's not going to stop the virus from spreading. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, I mean, it might slow it in some ways, but like you can't just ban travel to places. You know what I mean? Well, I guess you can, but.
Yeah. What's going to happen though? Like are they coming up with a vaccine? Like what is happening? Because how long can we do this thing for,
Yeah. I think that like, I think honestly, like I do think that they're doing research or something into a vaccine or doing something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There must be.
But it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty, but do you think?
And you know what happened in Korea?
What?
I mean, to be fair, I can see why. I do see why people are banning, the countries where it is, very widely spread. Yeah. Because, so basically what happened is, I guess, oh God, it's so annoying. So the reason why, because you know how Korea is like one of the really high, highly contaminated countries. The reason why is because there was this giant, massive, like cult like church apparently that basically like a bunch of people, like I think hundreds of people got it from that church.
Oh God.
Because I don't know exactly, but I heard that one of the things that they require you to do is like still come in even if you're feeling sick. So it's very cult-like.
Oh, God.
So like, yeah. So it spread like crazy from that church. And yeah, that's crazy. And that's how it started. Okay.
Anyway,
all right. We're having some technical difficulties today. As usual.
Okay. As usual. Gosh, I can't wait to be in Calgary and we can record together, and it's going to be so much easier.
I know. And then you're going to leave me again. So don't leave me, Dad.
That's not for sure, Roses, okay? God damn. I'll be excited to go out in Calgary with you and drink.
Oh my God. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait till you get back.
Yay.
Anyway, okay. Well, apparently traveling is a bad idea because of all of this crazy nonsense.
Yeah.
But apparently, okay, don't quote me on this, but I heard that people below the age of like 50, the risk of fatality is like 0.5% or something very little. So, and even if like, I think overall, like, I think it's only like 2% or something, which I know is still like, it's still a big deal, especially if a lot of people get it. It's still a significant number. And I know that even now, like significant number of people have died. But again, like perspective, the flu is still very dangerous. So it's like all of a sudden we're freaking out, and I don't know. And people are also, did you hear that grocery stores are being like wiped out of all the stuff?
Are you serious?
Have you not heard about this?
That's crazy. No, not at all. I didn't hear any of this stuff.
Oh my God. I've heard that like people are just going into grocery stores, buying so much like toilet paper and like food and all this shit because they're like freaking out. It's like the apocalypse. Like,
oh God. I mean, this is the thing, is like you do have to have some perspective. Like I don't know any stats, so I'm not really not educated enough to comment exactly on this. But again, it's like, you know, the common flu is, you know, a lot of people die from that as well. Like I think more people die from the common flu every year probably than this new coronavirus. So it's just kind of like putting that into perspective. And it is unfortunate, but like I said before in this podcast, the people that are more at risk are those over the age of like 50, 55, and those under the age of probably like 10, you know? So that's where it's a bit more scary, I think. But like for people around our age, like I mean, obviously we should still be mindful, but I don't think it's such a big, big of a deal, you know?
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, stay safe, guys. Apparently the best thing to do is wash your hands very thoroughly, often, and also try not to touch your face, although that's very difficult.
It's so hard. I'm always touching my face.
Oh my God, me too. Especially though, like around your nose, eyes, mouth. Apparently that's how you get the disease. That's how you get the disease.
Oh God damn, that'd be scary as all hell, Rose.
Yeah, I was freaking out. I thought I had corona.
Oh God, I'm sure you did. No, you just have to remember, Rose, that you always get sick when you travel. So
I know, but you know, like amidst this whole thing, I was like freaking out.
Yeah, I probably would too, though. I'd probably be like, actually, to be fair, the other day I had a bit of a sore throat. I didn't get sick, but I had like, you know when you feel like you're about to get sick?
Yeah.
So I felt like I was about to get sick, and I was like, oh God, please don't be the coronavirus.
A part of me wants to get it just to like get it over with, you know?
Oh God, and then you'd be immune.
But apparently not. I heard that people that have gotten better, and they got it again.
Oh God, that's horrible. Could you imagine?
Is this the end of the world?
I got a T-shirt that said, I survived the coronavirus, and then you get sick with it again. Oh my God. I mean, we shouldn't laugh, but like, gosh, that would suck.
Yeah, that would really suck. And like, also imagine, you know how we're like saying, oh yeah, if you're under 50, you know, the chance of dying is like, you know, 0.5%. Imagine if you were the 0.5%.
No, exactly. That's
you're like, I'll be fine. And then.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be all good. No, I think that's why people are scared. But again, when it's like such a small, percentage, obviously it can happen, but it's like you have higher chances of other stuff happening to you, like maybe getting hit by a car or something. I don't know.
Oh, 100%. And I actually think that I watched this video where people were comparing like what's happening in China, like the deaths and all that stuff. And because a lot of people die from like traffic accidents in China, this whole coronavirus has like decreased the amount of traffic, you know, on the road. So at the end of the day, you might actually be saving more lives by this whole like crazy coronavirus. Obviously it still sucks either way. Like not saying coronavirus is good, but like it's interesting if you put that into perspective as well. And it shows how much like we're so scared of certain things, but we're not scared of certain things like traffic and car accidents, which are extremely, extremely prevalent.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, it's interesting where something like this puts a highlight as to where people's fears are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're right. Like everyone still gets behind the wheel, and like all of this, and there is a high chance of risk of getting into accidents. And one thing that's interesting that I think about the coronavirus recently is, so one of our friends that lives in the UK messaged me, Christelle, and was like, oh, you know, we're out of the work. You know, her office got shut down for like a day or two. Yeah. And like places in London are being shut down, and like it's having an impact economically, right? on countries because of this like reduced, you know, people having panics, shutting down offices. So
huge economic impact.
Or decrease exactly. And it's going to decrease productivity. But it was funny because I mentioned to Christelle, we were like texting about this, and I was like, well, I hope that like, well, not that I hope, but like with the UK, with the Brexit going on and everything else, is it's easy for them to flip the finger to say, you know, let's say there's a big economic impact from the coronavirus, but they could say, you know, it's from the coronavirus, not from Brexit. Do you know what I mean? They could scapegoat it to either one that they wanted to, which I think is kind of, which I know politicians will do. They'll be like, they'll pick whichever one's more favorable for them in an election term.
That's true.
Like, oh, the economic impact was definitely from the coronavirus and not from Brexit. Brexit has been in the best interest of the British people.
Yeah, and like that's true. And it would be hard to measure too because of what's happening with the coronavirus.
So it's because it's impacting global economies, and it's hard to really pinpoint. Okay, because global economies are so intricate and complex, it's hard to say what's actually the culprit of causing, you know, decreased GDP and productivity and whatever else. So,
it's true. It's very hard to measure.
I think that's for another podcast, isn't it? For another episode.
Yes. And, it's good. I was just saying to my parents, I'm like, it's good that we live in Canada because there's so much space here. I feel like, if I'm going to be safe from this kind of craziness, I might want to stay in Canada,
No,
because knock on wood, like where I live right now, there hasn't been any known cases. And also another thing to mention is just because, whatever is being reported is not necessarily like, accurate, because what I'm saying is certain countries have different standards and different rules when it comes to testing for this virus. So I heard that in Korea, for example, they are testing everybody. They have the tests going on. Like apparently they have like a drive-through situation where you can just of course the Korean people, they got the technology going.
They want, and not only do they have the technology going, but Rose, the Koreans, they want to be as efficient as hell. So of course they have a drive-through test to get everyone in and out as fast as possible.
Yeah, if there's one place where they're going to do a drive-through coronavirus test, it's going to be South Korea. Okay. So so they're testing so many people, which is why the numbers are going up and up and up. And and the numbers are going crazy. Whereas certain parts of the world, they're not testing everybody. So we don't know the actual numbers here. So for example, and like in the United States, for example, because they have private health insurance or healthcare, I heard that it costs like, I don't know, $300-$400 to test for the coronavirus. So who's going to be testing for the coronavirus? Like,
exactly.
I wouldn't go and have a test because I feel a little bit sick. So we don't know the actual numbers. We don't know the extent of which it's spread. Some countries, the numbers might be like higher than other countries just because they're testing more.
Exactly. It's like it's interesting. It's like that whole argument about, like, I remember in one of my classes in uni, there was an argument about how quite in some places an increase, and this is the same thing about like the increased number of testing. They were like, in some places, if you increase the number of police officers, the crime rate actually goes up in that city. And it's not because that there's more crime, it's just because that there's more police officers to arrest the criminals.
Exactly.
So it appears to be going up. So it's the same thing. It's like if these countries are like testing prolifically and setting up, drive-through tests and all this kind of stuff, like, of course their number is going to be overinflated than other countries that might have just as many people, but they're just not testing as prolifically. And you're right. Like, I'm sorry, but if I lived in the States and I had to pay $300 for a test and I had a little cold, I'm not getting tested. I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to ride this out.
Exactly.
Probably might not be the best thing, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pay $300-$400 for that.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know. There might be thousands of people walking around the United States of America with the goddamn coronavirus. We don't know, Daniels.
Yeah, this is true. There could be people walking around the whole goddamn world, Roses, with the coronavirus. They be giving that corona to everyone, and I'm not meaning the beer.
Oh, God. I wonder if the Corona beer company is having any economic impact.
I wonder. Oh my God! But people are like, I don't want to
Google this.
Yeah. Oh my God! I wonder if it is.
Why did they call it the coronavirus?
I have no idea. That's another thing. I was like, why
I
did
would
they
be
name it
so
after
annoyed.
one of my favorite beers?
Yeah, I would be. Oh, no, I think it's because it means. Does it mean crown or something? No.
I'm not sure.
Meaning of corona. There must be a reason why. Let's see. A part of the body resembling or likened to a crown. A rarefied gaseous envelope of the sun. What? Okay, anyway. Not important.
Yeah,
let me search corona sales.
I wonder if it has been impacted, though. That would be so funny.
I don't know. Corona beer. Hold on.
I'm just going to Google.
Oh, okay.
Corona...
It says this. Corona beer maker says U.S. sales remain strong despite virus outbreak. So maybe people aren't so crazy.
Yeah, true.
But like that sucks. Like I would not be happy if I were the CEO of Corona beers.
Of course, it's like a brand reputation and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have this article here I just pulled up randomly from Marketing Week. It says coronavirus won't hurt Corona. It will actually help boost sales.
Why do you think? Why does it say?
I don't know. I should read more about this.
Okay, interesting.
I'm gonna do some research.
You're gonna do some research? Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, but But anyway, apparently the beer company, to all of those listening, the beer company has not been greatly impacted. So, please be kind and buy yourself a Corona.
CNN tweeted this though. 38% of Americans wouldn't buy Corona beer under any circumstances because of the coronavirus. Is this a joke?
Oh God. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
that sounds
sales
stupid.
Haven't been impacted, so yeah, I don't know.
God, we should have done this episode with a Corona beer in our hands. That would have been so great.
Oh my God, we should have.
I know, but it's early in the morning here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, hasn't stopped you before, Rose. What was I gonna say? Oh, I can't remember. I think we're.
Have we reached the time? Have we reached the time of the end?
We've reached the end, Rose. It's time to go.
Oh, God damn, Daniel. Is that be sad?
I know I'd be sad too. Do you want to... Who gave the vegan nugget last time? Was it you or me?
Oh, my God. I forgot about the vegan nugget. You know what? You can give a vegan nugget, Daniel. Do you know of it? Do you have a vegan nugget?
No, you put me on the spot here, and I actually haven't thought of one. Let me think here. Because I was going to say maybe you could give one from your vegan eats in Israel.
Oh my God, there's so many vegan stuff in Israel that I do miss the food. Oh my God, I miss the food.
That sushi looked amazing.
Oh my God, I know. That's so funny how I went to eat sushi in Israel. They had this vegan sushi place and I ate there. Did I eat there twice? I should have eaten there 3 times. I ate there twice and it was so good. 100% vegan. And the presentation was just so nice. It was just beautiful and it was delicious as well. But I had so much hummus. The hummus there, the way that they eat hummus over there is it's, I don't know how about you, but when you eat hummus, you just dip it with vegetables or it's like it's a nice dip. Whereas there, it's hummus is kind of almost the main thing where they just dip like crazy with the pita bread. They're just and they eat a giant bowl of hummus. And they also have this way of, it's so good. And the way of eating the hummus, I actually miss this. They take raw onion and they use that as a kind of a pita.
Spoon.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I know that sounds weird, but I tried it and it was actually so good.
Well, Rose, we can recreate it in Calgary if you want. When I'm there, we can make a big batch of hummus. Yes. And we can eat it with raw onions.
I'll make some delicious, authentic hummus. I actually they gifted me this book. It's The Road to Hummus or something. And it tells you the history of hummus. Because I always wondered, I think it came from Egypt originally.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But there's hummus recipes in there and stuff. So we can make some hummus.
Ooh, I'm down. I'm so down.
Yes. I don't have any. Oh, okay, here's my vegan nugget. Go try some authentic hummus. Some creamy. I don't want to say Israeli because that's going to be controversial. Just creamy, authentic Middle Eastern hummus. There you go.
Yes. That sounds like a treat because hummus is hummus is just so good.
It is so good.
I'm a hummus addict. I can never be one of those people that buys the tub of hummus and doesn't eat the whole thing in one sitting. So I try to.
You should have met me in Israel.
I know. I wanted
hummus
to.
Was so good.
I know. If the flights were a little bit cheaper, I would have. But it was just and also my school, I couldn't get the time off. So unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll be seeing you soon, very soon.
I know, but meeting in Israel would have been epic. Just putting that out there.
I know. Don't rub it in my face, Rose. I'm emotional as hell. Okay.
Oh, and I forgot to talk. What else did I do on my trip? I also went to the Dead Sea.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
That was really cool. Apparently, it is the lowest. Yes, it is the lowest part of this earth. So I went to the lowest part of this planet Earth, and the Dead Sea. Yeah, I did not know this. And the Dead Sea is basically
lowest, though?
I don't really know how it works, but it's the lowest part of the earth, apparently. there's a little sign when you get there. It's lowest point on earth, and they have a bar there as well, and it's called the lowest bar on earth or something like that. And basically nothing can live. The reason why it's the Dead Sea is because it's so salty that no living thing can live in there, I think. Yeah. But
I heard it's hard to swim in, to go under the water and stuff because you just float.
Yeah, you can't, like, you're not technically, apparently you can't swim in there because it's so salty, but you can float really easily. So you just lay there and you float. And I think it's dangerous if you try to swim.
Really?
I think so.
Like getting underwater. Yeah.
Well, it's not dangerous to get underwater, but it's dangerous if you try to swim, I think. Actually, I don't. Yeah, exactly. So I floated and I put some mud on my face. The minerals from the Dead Sea are supposed to be very good for your skin. So
very nice. Well, your skin is glowing and radiant today, Rose. So it's done the trick. You look a bit tan too, to be honest.
I think it's the lighting, Daniels.
Oh, goddamn. Well, you have that angelic light behind you, so you know, from the windows. Yeah.
Anyways, that was not a. Did I give a vegan nugget? What did I say?
Yeah.
Try some authentic hummus. Okay. Yes. Make yourself some delicious hummus, and eat it with some onion, some raw onion.
Some raw onion.
It'd be delicious as hell.
God damn.
All right, you guys.
As always, that's it. That is the end. Thank you so much for listening. This concludes another episode of the SaVeg Podcast. Be sure to check us out on social media, Instagram, the SaVeg Podcast, also on YouTube at the SaVeg Podcast. And if you liked this and want to get episodes a week early or want some exclusive juicy content, be sure to check us out on patreon.com/the SaVeg Podcast.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Make sure you give us a little rating, give us a little like wherever you are. And don't forget to tell your friends, tell your family. Okay. Yeah. And if you're quarantined, you can binge listen to all of our podcast episodes. No. I should not joke about this, but.
Yeah. Goddamn. Anyways. All right. Well, bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.